Hello, good morning. Well, although it's middle of November, like a lot of sports people, I'm actually starting to think about my plans for next year, 2018. I've been quite busy with other things recently, but what I've been doing is using the time in the evenings to think about a ride that I want to do next year. So it's going to be a 1200 kilometre DIY Audax, and I'm going to call it the Solstice 1200 because I aim to do it in the middle of June to coincide with the solstice. I really like June because the evenings are getting longer and longer for long distance cycling. That is just so good. So that works in my favour, and also it'd be nice to sort of combine it with the solstice. So that's the theme of it. So the route itself starts and finishes at my house in Bath, goes up the east coast here, Great Yarmouth, then westwards to the Welsh coast of Wales at Aberystwyth, and back down over the Cambrian Mountains to Bath. So there's going to be 2 nights booked accommodation on it. The first night is going to be a travel lodge at Thetford. Thetford is where a lot of the outside filming for Dad's Army was done, so a lot of the street scenes may seem familiar. The second night is going to be at Premier Inn at Market Harbour. I was going to use a travel lodge there, but the price was £76 for the night, whereas the Premier Inn was 47, so quite a substantial saving. And then this section here, in effect the second half of the ride, I've learnt from experience not to book too many nights accommodation, so I'm going to be taking a Bivvybag and I will be sleeping as and when required on this section. So why so much detail 7 months in advance? Well, I can only say from personal experience, goal setting works for me. It gives me something to focus on and keeps me motivated over the winter. And then as the days start getting longer, I tend to start noticing it at the end of February actually. As I ride, I notice the evenings really drawing out, and that incentivises me to start pushing the distance up a little bit as well. So for anybody who's interested in thinking about doing DIYs or have already done them, maybe a little bit of detail about how I've actually put this together. A lot of it is based on past experience. My past experience of doing a couple of rides similar to this. I did a 1200 kilometre Audax Permanent a few years back based on the spa towns of England, and then I did my own 1400 kilometre DIY to Lindisfarne 2 years ago. On both of those occasions I booked accommodation, and what I found was the first night's fairly easy to gauge, and if you get there later than planned you can just have a little bit less sleep, or if you get earlier than planned it gives you the option to have more sleep or set off earlier. By the time you get to the second night, the distance accumulated it opens up a spread between where you actually are and where you hope to be, and I found anything after the second night was just too hard to gauge. And also my experience of doing DIYs is I carry a bivvy bag. It just gives me all the options and the flexibility to keep things adaptable really on the road, because by this stage I just won't really know where I'm likely to be when. So although this route looks quite detailed, it's taken several attempts to get here actually. And one of the things I've stressed before in my videos is I don't really feel I have the control over how I'm going to feel or weather, but what I can control more is time really. So these stop off points and this section just allows me to evaluate how I'm doing and how long I can stop, whether I'm on schedule, behind schedule, ahead of schedule. So I've just found by focusing on the time rather than the speed, that just gives me much more of a feeling of control. So this is the route I'll be submitting to the regional organiser, and it'll be the overview of my planning, but I've got here through using 3 different mapping websites, so I'll maybe run through how I personally go about planning rides. There's no right or wrong way, this is just how I go about it. First of all, for the actual course creation, I tend to prefer Strava. I just find the mapping there much easier to use. You literally just put your pointer on the road where you want it to go, press it and it forms a waypoint, and you can either navigate round roads that you know really well, or in this case on unfamiliar territory, I just use it to link places, and then it taps into this open source of local knowledge I've found many times in the past. especially going through town centres. It takes me around back streets and up cycle paths I would have never found otherwise. You're tapping into that source of local knowledge, years and years of local knowledge and experience. So I've split the route into 3, and the reason I've done that is day 1, my house to the travel lodge, and it literally takes me to the door. I know from past experience, if you actually use the mapping, just take a few extra minutes to actually find out where the travel lodge is and finish the route at the door of it, it just saves all that hassle of getting to a big town and then wondering where it is, having to stop and ask directions. It may seem a minor point, but it just does make a lot of difference at the end of a long ride where it could be dark, you could be tired, you could be behind schedule, the weather might be inclement. It just saves so much mental energy and hassle. And the same now on day 2, that's the travel lodge to the Premier Inn. And then the third leg, where there's no accommodation involved, in effect is the second half of the ride. That will all be on one file. So to do the route planning and actually to submit it to the organiser to be validated, I actually need to join these 3 routes, and this is where I go to a second website called Bike Hike. So before I go there, I'm actually going to save all 3 of these files. I'm actually going to put them into a folder there, Solstice Triangle, and there is the completed course. I've already done it, so I'll run you through how I got there. So I go to Bike Hike. This is the second mapping site I use. So you start off here in the right hand side, there's a dialog box, and if I press load route, a dialog box then opens up here on the map itself. If I click browse, it'll go to that file. There you go, day 1, Bath to Thetford Travel Lodge. If I double click on that, there you go, it's appeared there. If I click upload route, there you go, it's suddenly appeared. That's copied it onto a different mapping website. Now for the actual merging, if I go back to this dialog box on the right hand side, press options, again dialog box opens up on the right hand side, on the left hand side on the map. Here I will click merge route, and then I just repeat the first step. Load route, browse. This time I'm going to highlight day 2, Thetford Travel Lodge to Market Harbour Premier Inn. There you go, it's appeared there. Upload route. There you go, it's joined them. Now for the final stage, I'll repeat that. Click options, choose merge route, choose load route, browse. There we go, days 3 and 4 updated. I had to do a lot of work on that file. Took several attempts, and again, there you go, days 3 and 4 updated. GPX has appeared there. Confirm that and upload route. There you go, the 3 files have been joined into one continuous route. What I like about this site is it's very easy to convert from miles, 747.47 miles, to kilometres. That's great, that tells me I'm just slightly over distance, that's perfect. What this site will not do is save that route to the site, so how I go about that is click save route here, download route there, and then this dialog box opens. I'm going to save file. There you go, it's saved there. I'm going to then drag and drop that onto my desktop, add it here, and there you see Bike Hike Route TCX. So now in my route folder I've got all 3 rides. That's the 3 I'm actually going to navigate by. I'm going to load onto my Garmin on the ride itself, but I've got the 3 combined there. So I'll go to my 3rd chosen website, which is Ride with GPS. Here I'll click upload, go down here, I'm going to upload a file on my computer, click select files, choose the Bike Hike file. Now this will take about half a minute because it's quite a substantial size file. There you go, it's just uploaded. That took about 45 seconds. Normally it would be done on a smaller file in about 10-15. So there you go. If I open that up, what I do find is when I upload it to this site, it saves it as a ride that I've done. So all I do there is I go to copy to my routes. There you go, and it's now been saved. I can view my copy. So now I've got this route saved, something I can keep coming back to and working. I can edit it a bit, so I'll click the edit button there. And it goes into editing mode. I will actually close that left hand panel just to make the route a little bit bigger and easier to see. And then I can start manipulating it. For example, Thetford, where my travel lodge is going to be. I can add a point of interest. Go there, and that will add a control. Because I know it's lodging, I would choose from the drop down menu lodging there. I'll call it, type in Thetford Travel Lodge, save it, and that is now on that route. Another thing I can do, I did spot earlier on, there's a slight dog leg at Rayada, and that occurred because when I was putting waymarks on the original Strava route, I must have just slightly put the waymark off the desired route. There you can see there's a dog leg which I want to get rid of. So if I zoom in, here you go. So how I go about rectifying that is I choose this option here, add remove control point, and then if I put a control point just before, a control point just after, and then I'll drag and drop this down here. There you go, I've got rid of it. And because it is add and remove control points, and I want to keep the file as small as possible really, click there, that removes that one, click there, job done. If I go back to opening this panel, I can save it. It gives me options. I want to rename that actually. I'm going to call it Solstice 1200. Click save, and again, because this is a big file, it might take a few seconds, about half a minute probably. There you go. Click view route here. What I like about this site is you can start putting some links in there. There's the links to the travel lodge and the Premier Inn I'm going to use. It gives me the start and finish point. It gives me the distance, the total elevation. What I can do here is change it from metric to imperial. So a really invaluable lesson a coach gave us years ago, and this applies not just to sport but a lot of things in life, is if you've got a big task, to break it down into 4 different segments. And he was saying that the first quarter you'll probably be running on enthusiasm, adrenaline, the buzz of the ride, and the second quarter as well, even though fatigue's starting to build up, you'll be seeing progress. Normally it'll be the third quarter which is probably mentally and physically the hardest, and the reason he suggested was that you've still got a long way to go, but you're really starting to feel the fatigue. And then the fourth quarter tends to sort of like give you a bit of a lift, because you then know you're on the homeward leg. And certainly from here you can see that fourth quarter is literally heading homewards, especially terrain wise. You can see down here it gets much hillier into Wales. There's a big climb there as you cross the border into Wales. There's a big summit there as you climb over the Cambrians towards Aberystwyth. You can see the drop down to sea, and then the big climb out. The other thing I like about this is, here's an example. If I zoom in, say to, let's go to my second night's accommodation, you can see it's slightly off route. The reason being is there was a travel lodge at Market Harbour, £76. This one was 47. So for the sake of a few miles, That's quite a substantial saving. Again, probably see by zooming in, it's just off a roundabout of a main road. If I zoom right in, the great thing about this website is I can drag the pegman and get a street view. So if I drop the pegman there, just coming off that roundabout, you can straight away see that you're going into a service area. There's a McDonald's there, what looks like a BP petrol station, and there you go, there's a travel lodge over, no, it's a Premier Inn, this one, isn't it? You can see the Premier Inn over there. Again, just a minor detail, but just before I set off on the ride, I'll actually spend a few minutes looking at both these accommodations, so when I get there, no matter how tired I am, disorientated, I'll have a rough idea of where the accommodation is. Sounds a minor detail, but that can make a significant difference really when you're tired. Just feeling you're in familiar surroundings and not having to spend and waste energy looking for accommodation. So something else I learned on DIY is when I did my Lindisfarne 1400, I actually submitted the route and the auto calculator gave me 96 hours, which was wrong. It was an error. It should have been 116 hours. So I based my accommodation based on that 96 hour time limit, and actually when I finished that route I actually thought I'd ran out of time because I just struggled to do the 1400 kilometers in that time. It was only when I sent the route in and just sort of say, here's a copy of my GPX, but you know, just to let you know I failed, and Tony the organizer came back and said, you didn't fail, you actually succeeded with about 8 hours to spare, and we realised it was the auto calculator at fault. So ever since then, important lesson, I always do my own calculations. So how do I go about doing that? First up, if you search for Audax time limits, you'll come across this, about third entry down, you'll come across regulations and appendices. If you open that up, you'll get a table with the time allowances, so you can see my event fits into this level here, 700 up to 1299 kilometers. I'm actually told that 13.3 kilometers per hour minimum speed requirement. It should actually be 13.333 kilometers per hour. So now what I can do to work out my own time allowance is to feed those figures into a calculator. So the route is actually 1201.8 kilometers. You round that up to 1202 kilometers. To actually work out my time allowance, you simply divide 1202, divide that by 13.333, that's the minimum speed requirement, and that gives you 90.0152253. The 90 hours is quite straightforward, but then you end up with a decimal fraction of an hour, and the easy way to calculate that is just take the first two figures, round them up or down. So in this case I'm rounding them down to 0.15. The formula for converting a decimal fraction of an hour into minutes is you simply multiply the fraction by 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour. So if I take 0.15 times 60, 9 minutes. So there you go, you can see I've put it in. 1202 divided by 13.333 equals 90 hours and 9 minutes. My preferred start time would be Monday at 5 AM, and that tells me then I've got till 23:09 on the Thursday. That could actually turn out to be crucial. It allows me to gauge how I'm doing on this last section, and if I am getting quite close, I can really sort of up the pace a little bit, or if I feel I'm there and I've got several hours left, I may stop, and it just gives me that ability. Again, knowing the time just gives you so much more control over events. So lastly, when am I going to go? So I've just got up a calendar for 2018. Now, June is one of my favourite months for cycling. The days are just getting longer and longer and longer, and that is so beneficial for long distance cycling. I decided I'd quite like to coincide it with the solstice. So the solstice is going to be either the 20th or the 21st. I'm not exactly sure yet, to be honest. So I aim to leave on the Monday, get back on the Thursday. That would be the end of my time allowance, Thursday evening at 9 minutes past 11 at night. So I hope you might have found that sort of interesting. I will do some updates nearer the time, and I intend to film it, the event itself, although I won't be doing much vlogging on it. It'll probably be more photographs, but I'll try and do some updates in the hotels and at what I consider to be key points. But I just hope for anybody who's interested in DIYs, thinking of doing them, that might just give you a little bit of insight into how I go about doing them. I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. I said my way is very much based on experience, really, and I guess really the biggest tip I would give is learn from your mistakes. I have made mistakes, but rather than beat myself up about them, I've actually learned through them, and that has a double benefit, really. If I make mistakes in the future, if I feel things aren't going right, I can just reflect and sort of think, well, they didn't go right in the past. I've actually learned from them, so it helps you to deal with setbacks, really. So I'll sign off there. So thanks very much for watching, and till next time.